If you've ever heard a phone ring at 3:33 a.m. and the voice on the other end was your own, I'm sorry, you're already in the loop. We moved into that apartment on a rainy afternoon. It was suspiciously cheap. The landlord said only one thing: don't answer the phone if it rings at 3 a.m. We laughed it off. In the living room, there was this old black rotary phone. No plug, no SIM, no wire. We called it the vintage brick. But that very night, it rang. 3:33 a.m. The bell sounded like metal scraping on bone. Mira was the first to answer. Her face turned pale within seconds. Be careful with water. Blood will spray onto the mirror. The next morning, Mira slipped in the bathroom. Her head slammed into the mirror. Blood splattered across the tiles. She died before I could even call for help. We thought it was just a freak accident, until the phone rang again the next night. Amy answered. The voice of her cousin, who had died months ago, came through. Choked. Broken. Be careful. That man, his back, will be impaled. The next day, a man fell from a second-floor balcony. His back was skewered by an iron fence. We couldn't deny it anymore. The phone was predicting deaths. We started believing we were chosen to stop the deaths. We tracked the calls, recorded the voices, tried to decode them. That evening, Ken heard from the phone. The long-haired girl will be trapped between the train doors. We found a girl who matched the description. We pulled her back just before the doors closed, but her hair got caught. She was dragged, screaming across the platform until the train finally stopped. Her lower body was torn to pieces. A chunk of her scalp was ripped off. She was still alive for 12 seconds. Her eyes wide open, blood gushing from her nose and mouth. Later, Amy heard, "That man will fall from the old elevator shaft." She alerted the building manager. They shut it down, sent in maintenance. But the technician slipped and fell into the shaft. The sound of his bones snapping echoed through 4 floors. Worse yet, the elevator moved on its own, as if someone inside pressed the button. It descended and crushed him. The scream he let out still haunts me. The more we tried to help, the more brutally they died. We panicked. No one wanted to answer the phone anymore. But then, it turned on by itself. The speakerphone crackled. We all heard it. Change voice to distorted filter, if possible. You will die. In blood. In pain. In burning skin and torn flesh. None of you will get out. We sealed the doors, taped the vents, hid the knives, cut the power, locked the gas. Everything. We turned the apartment into a sealed bunker. We thought we'd be safe. But we forgot one thing: gas. can still leak from one imperfect twist. And I lit a cigarette. The house exploded. I was thrown into the glass door. My hands burned. Amy screamed. Ken's skin peeled from his flesh. We tried to open the door. We clawed with our fingernails. We beat the locks with our skin. Nothing opened. We all died. When police arrived, everything was scorched, except for the black telephone. Flat, like reading a news line. For people die in apartment fire on Essex Street, 2024. Second identical fire, same location, 5 years after 2020. Whispered, if you hear a phone ring at 3:33 a.m., don't answer. Kyle, 22, had just moved into an old apartment on the quiet edge of the city. He lived alone, barely spoke, and had a habit of keeping things he found. He'd thrown away stranger things, but for some reason he kept this phone. The call came at 3:33 a.m. No name, no number, but it pulled him wide awake. There wasn't anyone really there, just fragments of a conversation long forgotten. Kyle wasn't sure if he was decoding something or being led somewhere. He started writing it down. The whispers repeated. They felt like instructions he wasn't meant to understand. The little changes piled up. Objects moved. The apartment no longer felt like his. In the old notebook, Kyle saw drawings just like the ones he'd started making. Maybe someone else had lived here and heard the same call. He stared at the ceiling and lost track. Day and night blurred. Time fell out of line. No more questions. No more doubt. Kyle obeyed, as if the voice belonged to a memory he once had. He arranged things like a blueprint. He didn't know what he was building, but it was coming together. He didn't know why he was doing it, but his hands kept moving. Even when he tried not to, he always turned to see it. Everything got too quiet, just his footsteps, and maybe not just his. He wasn't thinking anymore, just following steps he somehow knew. Reflections began to shift, and he wasn't sure what he was seeing was real. He didn't remember buying candles, but they were there. No one moved the pictures. The apartment adjusted itself. Everything around him had become a diagram, and he was the center point. The apartment no longer looked like the place he'd moved into. Everything seemed to be getting ready for something even he couldn't name. Kyle stood by the plug. Part of him wanted to pull it, but another part wanted to see what would happen if he didn't. He sat down without thinking. No instructions, no whispers, just the sense he was exactly where he needed to be. Something in the air started to shift. Not wind, pressure, like a room getting ready to breathe. But forgot who to call. Every sound he made echoed like a broadcast. The phone suddenly became the center of it all. Every invisible gaze in the room seemed fixed on it. The apartment went still again, but beneath the floorboards, something kept calling. Somewhere else, someone else was ready to listen, and the phone never disconnected, began to dial again.